Hey, everybody, and welcome to Common Good Conversations, a podcast creating deeper narratives at the intersection of faith and politics for the common good in West Michigan. I'm Nick Brock, and that is Shawn Skinner.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
We're doing good, Shawn. This is an early record. We started at 7:30. It's almost 8, but by now it takes us a little bit of time to figure out our technical difficulties. But we are in the swing of things. Shawn, you missed a couple episodes, so it's good to have you back in the seat. How does it feel to be back?
It feels early, is what it feels like. Feels early. Yeah, especially for a Saturday. We don't even have the kids last night. They're at the grandparents'. I should be in bed sleeping right now and trying to get a little extra, nap time in before we go get the kids because they didn't wake us up. Of course, then again, we did have Amazon drop off an order at like 4:30 this morning, which lit the dog up and just started barking everywhere. So whether we have the kids or not, it seems like we can't get a good night's sleep anyways.
The struggles of family life and the domestic woes. 4:30 in the morning from Amazon. Did you receive your Cosmo Kramer picture in the background?
No, I got that earlier this week. I have no idea what the wife ordered that showed up fourth. This is the second time this week they've showed up and dropped something off before 5:00 in the morning, and that dog just freaks out. Which is good. If anybody's breaking in the house, at least we know, somebody's breaking in the house. I should probably go get my firearm and shoot him with mace.
Shoot them with mace? I think you spray with mace. Have you ever?
They do have some home security, like mace ball guns that are compressed air, and you have it loaded up with little like paintball versions of mace. So if you make a mistake, no one's going to the hospital dead.
We don't need dead people going to the hospitals, and staying out of lawsuits. That's a good thing. Have you ever been sprayed? Do you know what that feels like?
No, but my buddy Josh, he's been sprayed.
It's I've been sprayed with pepper spray before when I was in the military. It was part of the training. Like, when you are supposed to carry it, you have to know what it's like. Yeah. And it is not fun. It's you can definitely work your way through it a bit, but you're going to have a lot of tears and you're going to stumble around a lot. So it's definitely a good deterrent for making dead people.
Yeah. A deterrent from making dead people? Or are you even opposed to dead people?
Just for making dead people. Because if you make dead people, there's always the possibility of zombies.
That's what Shawn, I was just thinking. It sounds like a zombie apocalypse thing. We're making dead people. This morning is too early. We've just way off the rails.
No, we're going right here. So Shawn, you missed the last 2 episodes, but as our listener knows by now, during the first record, I let them know that you were away at dance camp.
I know.
Then,
I heard it. I heard you say that.
Okay, you heard it. All right. So how was dance camp?
I still had to mix the episodes and put them together. Dance camp was fine. If dance camp is just not on the podcast and home. I'm trying to think of what I had going on. I think I had graduations. We've had a lot of graduations this past week. Graduation parties and then actual graduations. You were at a graduation last night, weren't you? Or was that Thursday?
The other night, Thursday night. Yeah, my nephew graduated from Byron Center High School, also my high school, and it was at Calvin University. And let me tell you, so I graduated in '99, and there were approximately 150 people at that time in the class. Now the high school has grown significantly, and there were upwards of 300 people. It took 25 minutes from the first person to walk, through the procession at the beginning to the last person to sit down. But man, with it being at Calvin University, it was a great you can bring in a ton of people, so that's really nice for family and friends. Though they're ticketed, the families are allotted so many slots. But it was a good hour and a half of sitting there and waiting for one person that I knew to walk across. So
you sound sour.
no, it's just like the whole thing. Of course, I'm very proud of Jaden and his accomplishment, making it all the way through. And, he's an accomplished athlete as well, going on to a local university to play basketball and participate in track and field stuff. But it's just a long sit and to listen to, speeches from people who have almost no life experience. Yeah. But really, I mean, there was this kid, the valedictorian, he had a 4.5 GPA. Yeah, it was just mind-blowing, I think. Yeah, I had a 3.5, and I thought I was doing pretty good. But
I don't even know what mine was. I didn't even bother to find out.
You barely passed high school, right?
Well, somewhat. I mean, I had to pay off a lot of teachers, but that's what you do, right?
There you go. That's what you do. Hey, Shawn, did you know that Sarah Leach was fired from the Holland Sentinel?
I did, as of 12 hours ago.
Before you read my notes.
Oh, well then no.
Yeah, Sarah Leach, the chief, the editor-in-chief, or one of the main journalists, she was fired from the Sentinel about a month ago. So somehow this flew under my radar because I follow Sarah quite frequently. And man, I found out about this 3 weeks later as a dummy. I don't know how it happened, but I reached out to a friend and I said, "Hey, what happened?" So, listener, if you're a dummy like me, I'm going to give you a little update on Sarah Leach. So she started a Substack, and a Substack is just a writing platform for anybody. And she gave her thoughts on this. So I'm going to read this through. It's a little long, but I think it's really appropriate for our listeners. So on May 9, Sarah wrote on her Substack, "Hi, everyone," with a wave hand. That's really important to see that there's a wave hand emoji. "Most of you know a quote unquote something happened with me and the Holland Sentinel. This is confirming that Gannett, the parent company of the Holland Sentinel, made the unfortunate decision to fire me April 29. I was accused of, quote unquote, sharing proprietary information with an outside competing media company. In actuality, I complained to a colleague at Pointer, which is a nonprofit media institute and newsroom that provides fact-checking, media literacy, and journalism ethics training to citizens and journalists, that we were in many ways and at many times given assurances from my former company that resources were coming, that we would prioritize local journalism, and if I just held on, it would be okay." And side, she's referencing to just funds and being able to get the money to staff the work. And she goes on, "But it's not okay, guys. It hasn't been okay for a while. The brutal fact is that there is a crisis in local journalism, specifically community papers the size of Holland, one that corporate media companies don't have a clear answer on how to address. I'm not bitter toward my former employer. It's not Gannett's fault. In many ways, it's just the natural byproduct of media conglomerates owning publications in major metropolitan areas with hundreds of thousands of people, and papers in much smaller towns who need local journalism just as much. I love the Holland Sentinel and the community it serves. I gave 14 years of my life to it and am proud of each and every staff member, past and present. I will continue to subscribe and read the Sentinel because I value their work." Now, I think here is the important note for the rest of us who've been following along with the Sentinel and kind of making sure that we're getting our daily digest of what's going on with Ottawa Impact through her work. So she says, I will plan to see the commitment I made to you in January of 2023. I will continue to report on Ottawa County politics through the end of the year, either through different media platforms and through my own Substack, which you can find at substack.com/@SentinelLeech. And finally, she says, let's use this moment as a catalyst for a critical conversation about local media outlets and the audiences they serve. So on that note, she writes a little bit more, but you can find that on her Substack. But I just want to say personally to Sarah, if you're listening, thank you for all your hard work to the county in covering this story. It has been the biggest story with regard to Ottawa County politics, and I'm grateful for your work because a lot of it has helped to fuel the information on this podcast. Because even today, using some of the information that you provide and asking questions. So with that, let's see. I should note that Sarah will be with us at our Sunday, June 16 live podcast event. So Shawn and I will be hosting another live podcast event that we did in March. So Sarah will join us for an hour-long segment talking about everything that I just discussed, what it's been like covering Ottawa Impact, and the challenges of that, and then the challenges of being a small-size newspaper. And that is the most recent news in Ottawa County, Shawn.
Nice. That's disappointing that they had to let her go. I'm a little confused still on the exact reason and everything, but that's disappointing. But she's still up for what was the award that she was up for? A Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, I believe she's still up for that award for local journalism, and I don't know when that is awarded, but I thought it was pretty soon here. I thought it was before the summer or at the start of summer when they announced those things. So I don't think that would have anything to do with, I don't know, a disqualification, because I mean, without knowing much about it, I assume they look into the body of work.
Yep. Well, I'm sure we'll find out at the live podcast, and we can pepper her with questions.
Yeah, we're definitely going to pepper her with questions. And so, listener, make sure that you mark that date in your calendar, Sunday, June 16, 5:30 to 8:30. She'll likely be joining us during a 6:30 segment.
Sunday.
Yeah, do it again.
Sunday.
Sunday. All right, how about today? Today, Shawn, we have the privilege of being in conversation with the man running to fill Roger Bergman's shoes in Ottawa County. And that's a direct quote from the Holland Sentinel and Sarah Leech. Josh Brugger.
I think you should. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Shawn. I think you should follow that up with what she said next on that headline. I think that's.
Oh, what is it?
The man who wants to make government boring, reliable, and predictable. Again.
Oh yeah, we're totally get into that, Josh.
Where's that hat?
Yeah.
Josh, you're running as a Republican for the District 10 seat on the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, and you want to return local government to being boring. So, Josh, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Shawn. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, check in with you guys, talk a little bit about politics and.
Yeah, we're going to get into this boring, reliable, and predictable. But before we do that, Josh, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Grand Haven. I am the third generation Grand Haven Brugger, raising two boys. Our son Caden, like your son Jaden.
Oh, my son is Wyatt. That's my nephew.
Oh, it's a nephew. Okay. Yep. Our son Caden just graduated from Grand Haven High School last week, Thursday. And he's headed out to the University of Oregon. Very proud of him. You were talking about GPAs, I think, a little earlier. I believe my high school GPA was a 3.45, which I know that it was not a 3.5 because I was zero point 0.5 short of a $5,000 scholarship to Hope College, where I attended. That was painful. Man, just a couple tests I could have taken and done a little bit better on. But anyway, married. My wife, Jen, is a social worker at Reese Buffer Schools. We've got another son, Caleb, who's an enthusiastic soccer player, hoping to make it big in the MLS someday.
Okay. Does he have a favorite player, team?
Well, I mean, Man City is the hot team right now. I think, what is it, 4 wins in a row of the Premier League. So that'd definitely be one. They've got a player on his team on Man City named Grealish. I think his last name's Grealish. He's a left winger, and Caleb is a left winger, and he's got a Grealish jersey. Follows him and a few other guys on the team. Absolutely
nice. I'm a kind of a Ted Lasso guy here. My son, he is.
Hey, all right.
So he just started playing soccer about maybe last year, and I never played soccer before. I know almost nothing about soccer, but so I decided to be his coach for the 8 and under, along with my wife. So I am learning more and more about soccer, or as they call it, football, right, around the world. My favorite player is Lionel Messi because he's the greatest player of all time, and I'm just gonna, plant my flag there. Yeah, I really want to get one of those Miami jerseys. I think I'd look great in pink. You would too, Shawn. I think you would look really stellar.
Not as good as you. I think you would pull it off way better than I would.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty.
You're welcome.
All right, go ahead, Josh. What else? About yourself?
I am a builder in town here. I did graduate from Hope College with a degree in political science. And I'm a builder, which is kind of funny. So I ran for for the Grand Haven City Council, was elected in 2015 to serve a 4-year term. I remember after I won the election, I emailed my professor, David Ryden, over at Hope College, and I said, "Hey, Dr. Ryden, I'm finally using my degree from Hope College, my $85,000 degree. I'm earning $3,000 a year." As an elected official for the city of Grand Haven, which brings to the point. It's not about the dollars; it's about the service. And frankly, when I got elected, I was actually surprised. I didn't realize I got paid. And I know there's been a bit of a snafu at the county level talking about pay, and we can maybe get into that in a minute. But that's a little bit of my background. I have always been involved in public service. From graduating at Hope, I signed up for AmeriCorps, volunteered for 2 years building houses with Habitat for Humanity down in Holland. And then my wife and I lived in South Africa for a short while in 2004, where we did some ministry work. Came back, worked in banking for a short while, got back into nonprofit, and then off to building houses, and then spending my time working with the city of Grand Haven. So public service, making the community a better place, creating opportunity for people to succeed however they define success for themselves is huge for me. I think that's part of what we're called to do. So, thank you again for the opportunity to chat with you guys today.
Absolutely. A 3.5 or 3.45 GPA from high school. So, Shawn, there's still a lot of hope for you. You can, the sky's the ceiling. You could run for office. I could run for office even, a 3.5.
Yeah.
So, stop scowling at me, Shawn.
If you run for office and you never bring it up, hopefully nobody else ever does either. So you don't even have to worry about the number.
No, they'll probably use it against me. You're not that smart. You only got a 3.5.
Yeah. And now that it's out there, I'm sure my opponent will use that against me.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck.
It's one of those things like if you're a drywaller, if you don't point out the mistake that you made, nobody's probably going to see it.
Absolutely right. Yep.
Josh, on your campaign website, you talk about your family, and you say that we're neither fully left nor fully right, and we're teaching our boys that to be fully one or the other makes for a limited worldview. When we isolate ourselves by listening to news and media outlets that only align with our opinions, we grow further apart as a nation. Confirmation bias is real and it divides us. This needs to change, and our family is working to make that change. And we invite you to join us. That's a really intriguing campaign statement to say that you're not either left or right, and that you're working for something else. What would you want the listener to know about that?
Hearing you read that back to me, man, that sounded really smart. I thought that was brilliant at the time I wrote it. Now that I'm in a Republican primary, where I'm getting absolutely blasted from the far right side that I'm not a real Republican, that makes you scratch your head a little bit. But nonetheless, I'm sticking to it. I grew up in a Democratic family. My dad was a school teacher, single income household. We did not have a lot. I remember the big days were Fridays when instead of buying milk at Ferry School, I got to bring a juice box. It wasn't a high C juice box. We had the Mott's, healthy apple sauce or healthy apple juice that my mother gave me. That was a big deal. But I remember being on the picket lines or visiting my dad on the picket lines with the teachers union back in the 90s. I can't remember whether it was Prop A or Prop 1 or something like that in one of the elections or ballot initiatives in the 90s. And just being impressed with my dad standing on the picket lines. I have always, however, been more conservative than my family. And interestingly enough, going to Hope College, I met my wife, Jen. She grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, remembers listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio. And she remembers going to the Capitol, to the Supreme Court, to a protest with her mother. I can't remember what the protest was about. But anyways, you put those two juxtaposing viewpoints together, and you get somebody who's in the middle. We got Rush Limbaugh on the extreme on the right, at least at the time, and you've got picket lines for labor unions on the left, and we really have found a happy spot in the middle. I think that is an important thing. When we limit ourselves to a far right or a far left silo of information, we're creating animosity and opportunity for, I don't want to say disagreement. We can have disagreement, but it's grown worse than that. It's more volatile than that today. And it's just not a pretty place to be, not a good place to be as a society trying to move everybody forward. So we believe in it. My hero on the Republican side, by the way, you give me Abraham Lincoln, the emancipator, 13th Amendment, kept the Union together. I'm going to jump forward to Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, this is how the Republican Party has evolved over the years. The man established what would become the national park system. He fought to take down giant monopolies and improve worker conditions. That's a original Republican value that I can get behind 100%. Jump forward to Dwight Eisenhower, Ike, commander of the NATO forces after World War II, commander of the Allied forces in World War II. Came back home to the United States, ran for president, was elected by something like 65 or 70%, hugely popular Republican president. And he worked for national security, and he also advocated for the construction of the interstate highway system, one of the biggest operations in our country's history. Now, he did it because he believed that we were in danger if we were ever attacked as a country, and we needed a highway system to get the military goods to different parts of the country. But the tailspin or the sidebar for us is we've got an interstate highway system that is magnificent and brings our goods and services to our local communities all the time. We get into environmental issues, which bring up a challenge there too. But then you've got Reagan going back to the 80s. Tell you what, sorry, I'm rolling. I got in a conversation with a gentleman who said I'm not conservative enough. And I said, well, what do you think about Ronald Reagan? Well, he's a moderate by today's standards. I couldn't even vote for Reagan. I thought, you lost me there. If we're that far right, I'm not sure we're in a good place. So anyway, I've rambled on a minute. Go for it, Nick.
Yeah, there's too, I want to go back to what your website said there. It said, so confirmation bias is real and it divides us. So I'm wondering, and this is a question that Shawn, you and I have discussed a bit too, is like, how do we go about getting our news? Like, what resources do we rely on? How do we figure that out? So, with that in a household that is split, if you will, how do you go about or teach your let's just say, yeah, you teach your kids how to read the news or where to get the news.
Oh yeah, was that for Shawn or for Josh?
Oh no, I think that was for you. I think he was just referencing. He and I have talked a lot before on other episodes and everything, and off the air about the struggles, especially for myself, to find what you consider to be, correct news or truthful news or whatnot, or not biased one way or the other. Not CNN, not Fox, something near the center type of thing.
No, that's a great question. My solution, our household solution, has been to go to multiple media outlets. I've got on my phone, Fox News is saved. I've got CNN. I don't usually go to MSN, but Fox News, CNN, and then my wife and I are big fans of the BBC. And then if it gets into international politics, we'll even pull up Al Jazeera, just so that we get what we believe is a much more well-rounded perspective. And it is mind-boggling. If you take another one I can mention too on the what is seen as a more liberal media outlet, the NPR, it truly, depending on the issue, it is more liberal. If you read an article on, let's take abortion rights on one side, if you read it on NPR versus reading it on Fox News, you are going to get an entirely different take on the exact same story. So you've got to read both of them. Otherwise, I'm going to read Fox News, somebody else is going to read NPR, and we're going to be yelling at each other at some point in time rather than having a civil conversation about it. And that's just not healthy.
I remember I was telling Nick and I had talked about this a while ago, because this is almost pretty much 4 years ago now. But the day that Trump left office and Biden came to office, I was jumped between CNN and Fox News watching Trump getting on the plane to fly away or whatever. And you listen to it on Fox News, and it's like, oh, this is a terrible day. Trump's on his way away, and then you go over to CNN, and they're like, this is the best day ever. Trump's out of office. Woohoo! And it's just it's such a a pendulum swing from one to the other.
Yeah, you got it. And pendulum swing is a huge term, and that's such an important thing for me right now. What was it? Newton's laws of physics or motion or something like that. Every action merits an equal and opposite reaction. The further that sounds smart. 3.45 GPA. There you go. I remembered something. The further left one administration goes, the further right the reaction is going to be, and then we go back and forth, and we're swinging further and further out. We need somebody to knock us and set us back in the middle. And for me, give me middle right. I'll admit I am more conservative, but no, it needs to be a healthy dialogue.
That makes me think of the age between Biden and Trump a little bit. We went with Trump, who was the oldest sitting president at the time. Then we went to Biden, who became the oldest sitting president at the time. So we went from one to
yes.
Yeah. There's one thing that I've learned in my I would consider myself still a novice to all of this political talk and following. I mean, I never really followed politics closely until after 2016. My world was more, involved in sports and ESPN and things of that nature. But then I decided to grow up just a little bit. But so after, almost, definitely 4 years or nearly kind of a decade of, listening to the news, listening to NPR or reading NPR, and then like the New York Times, the Washington Post, seeing what Fox News says or the BBC, you can start to pick up, the leanings a bit. And I think that's important because then, you become more attuned to what they're saying, and then making, determinations for yourself. I can hardly listen to NPR now because it's just sometimes it's just a little too touchy-feely for me, and a lot of the reporters are just super young, and that's fine. But that just comes with perhaps me growing older and more grouchy in my years. But there's one news authority that I really love is the Dr. Heather Heather Cox Richardson. There it is. So she does a daily synopsis of the news, but she puts that context. She puts it in a historical context. She's a historian out of Boston College, and the way that she is able to wrap things all together, the daily news within the history of American politics, and it's just stunning. So, I'll read her newsletter, I'll read the Holland Sentinel, and then I'm checking in with local news outlets as well.
No, that's good. I wrote her name down. I'm going to check her out.
Did the same
that's
thing
great.
too.
I always appreciate it.
The other hard part is with all these media outlets, if you really don't want to have any type of, cross reference or feel like somebody else is on a different side, it's real easy to go, this is the one that I like because they're saying exactly what I want to hear, whether it be right or wrong or whatever. Yeah. This is what I want to hear. This is where I want to live. This is the information I want to get. And that I think that's when you really get the my feet in the sand, and I don't care what yours says. Mine says this, and this is the way it goes.
Yeah. Shawn, I think you hit the nail on the head there. If you're hearing only things that you want to hear that feel good, that feel right, and we can get into scripture, and that's I
took a note on that. I was going to come back around to scripture with you in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. But if it just feels good and affirms confirmation bias, it's in my original writing there. It's real. If it just continually affirms what you already feel and already believe, you're not even going to be willing to look outside. Well,
if it's feeding you that consistently and that constantly, I don't see a reason to watch it. Unless you're just always looking for confirmation that you think you're right. Other than that, if you
which might tell you something. If I need to be reassured that I'm right, and so I go and I listen to this thing that reassures me that I'm right and I feel good about myself again, maybe there's something wrong.
Nah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to second guess yourself.
No.
Just watch a little bit more Fox News and you get corrected again.
There we go. You got it. Or if you're on the left, listen to some more NPR and you feel better about it too. So, NPR is just, they're hating the you already. Sorry.
Oh, no, it helps us out. That's clickbait for us the whole way. Well,
is that clickbait for you? Okay,
some publication will catch it and be like, man, this podcast just tore NPR apart and they hate Fox News. Click here and see what they said, this week.
Yeah, see what they said about both of them.
So there's this other kind of pendulum swing, if you will, too. So it's like, all right, there can be this. I think it's a bit overplayed. As like, okay, the media, it's the media's fault. You can't trust anybody because it's either too left or too right. So do your own research, which I think is important. But then we get into, all right, if we're gonna say do your own research, and you're not a smart fellow, if you've only got a 3.45 or a 3.5, hey, there need to be some just some more guidance, into doing your own research, because I'm sure that maybe Josh, you've heard folks giving public comment at meetings, at being a former councilman yourself for the city of Grand Haven.
Sure.
People do their research, and sometimes they just don't know how to go about that. Maybe they don't have the kind of the experience, so they'll go to various websites and say, hey, this is my information. I found this on the internet, and we know everything that on the internet is true and reliable. So there's just that piece.
Yeah, no, you got it, Nick. Yeah, no, that's a good piece. And you mentioned in the intro here about Sarah Leach at the Holland Sentinel, and I've heard at the county level, folks coming in and just bashing her and the Holland Sentinel and the news outlets, saying you can't trust them, you need to do your own research. And you're right, it is a challenge. It's still subjective. But when I go to a county meeting and I attend the meeting and I listen to what happened, just from a bare factual standpoint, sequentially what happened, and then I read it in the Sentinel and it matches up roughly sequentially with what happened. And then you go to a county meeting the next month and somebody's railing on how the Sentinel has a bias. And I go, wait a minute, you weren't at the meeting, you didn't listen in, you didn't watch it, you don't have the historical context. The Sentinel's actually a heck of a lot Sarah's doing a heck of a lot better job than your interpretation. Mm-hmm. What are you listening to? Well, I go to Simply American or whatever the Ottawa Impact site is, and I get my information there. I'm like, well, if that's the only place you're getting it from, you better check
just do a little more
that,
research.
There you go.
Yeah. The hard part too is, with all the search engines and everything, you go on Google and you try to do your own research. Before you know, if you're looking up something to do with the Republican side or the Democratic side, next thing you know, that you're getting bombarded with ads on your phone towards that side. So that also,
Yes, you are.
As far as I'm concerned, puts up another wall of annoyance of trying to do anything if I'm just going to get fed a bunch of, pardon my French, a bunch of shit all the time. If I'm on YouTube and I want to see,
sure,
I want to see, what's, I've done this numerous times, and maybe it just shows what I look at on YouTube. But if I'm looking up something on CNN to try to get a concept of their side, and it comes up with, well, Fox News says this about CNN. That's not what I'm looking for. It's still pushing me one way, depending on my search engine and what I've researched prior.
Sure, and Nick, you mentioned Lionel Messi being your favorite soccer player. I have sometimes think that something's listening in on us, because I swear I'm going to have a Lionel Messi, ad pop in for Miami on my Facebook feed, and I haven't talked or looked up.
When it happens, screenshot and share it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll screenshot and send it to you guys.
For sure, that is for real. I mean, that's why Shawn has so many pillows from My Pillow, right? You've got.
You were doing an information search on who is this My Pillow guy, and suddenly you had an.
He's having a good night's sleep. Yeah, here's all those pillows. That's what it was, Shawn. 4:30 this morning. 5 more pillows.
And I'll tell you what, I slept like a gem after those pillows showed up at 4:30 in the morning.
Shawn, you wanted to talk about scripture, is that right? You wanted to talk about the Bible?
Well, I had written down here a little bit in my notes because Josh had mentioned, it was South Africa you guys stayed in for a little bit, or for missions. Yep. And I was wondering, what's your thoughts? Because Ottawa Impact, they have this. We've interviewed the Satanic Church a couple times now, and the whole thing in Ottawa Impact with the what's the word for it? So that they were there doing the prayer at the beginning of everything.
Oh, the invocation.
Yeah, invocation.
Oh, invocation.
What's your take on religion in politics?
Oh man, I look at the clck, 8:24. I don't think we have enough.
Oh, just like a small little thing, like I know I've got a lot of people that I personally don't really like the idea of religion in politics, but I do also have a lot of friends that are fairly religious, and they do see coinciding with, if somebody is religious, they share our views and values a little bit and everything. So they're not necessarily saying it's political, but I can understand that Canada a little bit better because I share similar values religiously or whatnot.
Hold on, just before you get into that, too, I just want to make sure. So Josh, we have a good 20 minutes. So I know that we said 8:30, but if you got a hard out, what do you have a hard out?
Oh, hard out would be about 8:40. I've got a team meeting at 8:45 that I have to be at.
We're your team.
5 blocks
we're
from
your
house.
team.
Hard out.
That would be dynamite. I know. I'm sorry, guys.
8:40. All right, go ahead. Let's talk about religion and politics. Everybody's favorite topic.
You're a good man, Nick. Woo! Yeah. So I got in a great dialogue with a gentleman on my Facebook page, which you're welcome to check me out. Oh wow, I should plug my Facebook page. Isn't that what smart people do? I don't even know how to do that. See, I failed already. Did I? Yes, Facebook. Josh Brugger for Commissioner Josh Brugger, something like that. Separation of church and state to me is hugely important. My senior thesis at Hope College was on the separation of church and state. At the time I wrote it, I was very much taking it from a Christian standpoint, saying, there is a separation. I get that. But there are a lot of Christian principles that our country was founded on. And I still to this day believe that. But as I've grown in my faith, as I've studied some scripture, and I know scripture is a challenge because people are going to pick and choose what hits them. It's just like news media. Do your research. Well, if I go to, trying to think of when Sodom and Gomorrah was going on, and scripture where that is, and I compare that to the teachings of Jesus, and I go, well, wait a minute, which one do you pick? But at any rate, separation of church and state is hugely important. And I believe firmly in a wall of separation. I believe that from the Constitution's perspective and from a country that I want to live in, also given the context of what the first settlers in the United States and America came from, we ought to be creating a system of government where everybody has the opportunity to choose how they want to live out their life and how they want to live out their faith. Now, there are some bumpers that you put on that. Obviously, if your faith says go kill people, that's not going to work. But I know. Sorry, Shawn. Well, mace is okay. I think you guys were talking about mace earlier for the break-ins for that scenario. And then I paired that with the teachings of Jesus, my understanding, and I can admit that I'm a bit of a red-letter Christian. For those of you who don't know what a red-letter Christian is, if you grew up in the church, you sometimes would open up a Bible, and you would see that some of the words were in red and the rest of them were in black. Well, the red letters are the words that Jesus spoke. And if you specifically take the words that Jesus spoke, and interestingly enough, Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers' Declaration of Independence, was one of the first people, at least that I'm aware of in the United States, to cut out the words of Jesus and start to create his own red letter Bible. And he also wrote, I think it's West Virginia or Virginia, wall of separation of church and state is on his tombstone. So, Jesus was not about forcing anybody to believe anything. He was about, you have the freedom to choose. I, as God, gave you free will to make a choice. I'm here to tell you that I'm the choice you should be making. And I'm down here not asking you to kill other people in my name. I'm going to sacrifice myself for you and defeat death and be risen again from the dead. So follow me. But he never at one point said, you must do this. You must live this way. You must ... Granted, stop sinning, continue, don't turn away from sin. I get that. But he never forced anybody to do that. I don't want to live in a government where I'm forced to believe one particular version of Christianity or one particular version of, Islam, if we want to go that direction. I want a system that's free for you to decide for yourself. So I get very concerned when a group at Ottawa County, this is interesting, Ottawa Impact first ran on faith, family, and freedom. You'll notice in their marketing right now, they've removed the word faith. And now it's just family and freedom in their new advertisements. Yeah, I think they had a wake-up call on how toxic that is when you bring faith into government. Now, they continue to do it, but at any rate, I think it's an eye-opener right there. But yeah, people should have the right to choose. Sorry I'm rambling on, but I want to live in a government system where that is the case. So at a county-level position, it's interesting how that trickles down. We got to make everything applicable to the job that I'm running for. I don't have any call as a county commissioner over how the Supreme Court has interpreted the Constitution when it comes to faith. I've got to lean into the Constitution. And as a constitutionalist, I'm going to look at the Constitution for guidance. That does say that we've got free speech. And when it comes to invocations, yes, anyone can come and offer an invocation. So the Satanist gentleman, can't remember his name, he's got every right to be there, as well as Jared Kramer, the gentleman who filed the lawsuit for discrimination against the Ottawa Impact commissioners for not allowing him as a Lutheran Episcopal priest to come in. Episcopal priest to come and give an invocation. And then you take your more mainline Protestant Reformed church from being in West Michigan to the Wesleyan Church and so forth. Everybody needs to be able to have a seat at the table. If we're going to offer an opportunity for an invocation, it's got to be there.
Yeah, I wonder on that piece. There you go. That's interesting that Ottawa Impact has taken off this little faith portion from their marketing. But what I've noted or noticed of a lot of candidates, running against Ottawa Impact and just kind of in West Michigan, is that they will make note that they are a Christian. So it's very important to people, very important in this area. So, I have a few opinions on this, but I'd love to hear your opinion on what is the role of faith as a politician? So how should a candidate or an elected official go about their faith in the public space?
the challenge is to make sure there's a balance between my faith in Jesus Christ. I am a Christian, grew up in the Christian church, missionary overseas, as we talked about, is in its proper context in light of the Constitution of the United States of America. I'll give you one example. I believe personally, from the scripture that I've read, I'm going to jump into gay marriage. I believe scripturally, as originally intended to be fruitful and multiply, that marriage was intended to be between one man and one woman. In the United States of America, we have a constitution, and the 14th Amendment due process was determined in, I think it was 2015 or 13, that gay marriage is a protected constitutional right. Okay, so be it. I'm an American. I'm going to swear allegiance to the Constitution. Then I have to uphold that and be accepting of that. So my personal faith is that doesn't add up. But there's a lot of things in this world that don't add up with what in light of original scripture. So there's no judgment here. And then I lean into the Constitution as an American and say, you've got a right to do this, just as folks who have a Second Amendment right to carry their sidearm around downtown Grand Haven if they want to. Freaks me out. I'd rather not, but they've got a constitutional right to do it. So, yeah. But my faith as far as humanity, looking out for people, I'll give you one here. Let's go to abortion. I am pro-life. There are certain exceptions that I actually think should be reasonably made. Rape, incest, mother's life at risk. But we, as a politician in a state of Michigan, where it is now, as of 2 years ago when Proposal 2 passed, a constitutional right in the state of Michigan that a woman can obtain an abortion if she so chooses. Okay, I've got to be pragmatic now. I'm not going to change that as a Christian. I may not like it, but I can't do a thing about it. So what I'm going to do as a county commissioner then is look to create a system, a government, and a community that creates opportunity and supports a woman who chooses life so that there's more reasons to choose life. That means supporting programs like food programs. That means supporting early childhood development. That means making sure that we've got some sort of a daycare program in partnership with organizations like companies like Shape and Gentex are working on doing daycare for their employees, because that's a huge expense. And then I could get into healthcare, which is a tremendous expense and financial burden on anyone. You've got kids, you know what a well childhood checkup costs, let alone if they get injured. If we're going to support life as a pro-life candidate, we need to look at ways of truly supporting life, not just supporting birth. So that's how I would live my faith out, looking out for people, trying to create opportunities for life to be the choice that you make. In light of the reality, I'm pragmatic that in the state of Michigan, an abortion is allowed. Sorry, I hit gay marriage and abortion in the last 10 minutes.
And religion. Super easy.
And religion.
To be honest with you, it sounded like he actually made it fairly easy to talk about right there. One thing I wanted to touch on a second is I actually really appreciate the fact that you said personally. This is your your personal opinion towards it, and it's not, I think it should be done this way, and I think people should be doing it's, like you said, personally, this is how I feel about it, but the Constitution says this, and I have to stick behind the Constitution. So as a politician, I feel like you did a pretty good job of keeping both in the same lane.
Good. Hey, thanks, Shawn. It is a challenge. It absolutely is a challenge. But I am not going to be, listen, if I have a complaint about something, I'm not going to turn to a keyboard warrior and sit behind my desk and just yell at people.
You are the first person I've heard really say, in the terms of abortion, because I would say that I agree with you on that. As I'm more pro-life, but I feel like there can be some some oversight reasons to potentially have it type thing, like you said, incest, rape, and everything. And I think I lost my train of thought there for a second. But
you can do it.
Yeah, I'll get there. But you're the first person. You're the first person I've heard that said, we need to try to figure out how to support pro-life, not demonize abortion, in terms of everything, but give more reason to be pro-life, give more reasons to have, if there is no medical, reason to have an abortion, to give reasons to follow through and be pro-life type thing. You know what I mean?
No, that's good, Shawn. And I tell you what, my position on abortion, I get beat up on the left and the right. And that goes back to where we started the conversation about being a moderate in the middle. I'm trying to find a reasonable path forward to move us forward. Well, again, the reasonableness of it is going to be determined by the voters. I have my opinion, again, as you said. But when it comes to being pro-life, and I give the exceptions for rape and incest, my comment is, that is a life that is being aborted and life is being ended. But you know what? A really, sorry, I'll use your word already, a really shitty thing has already happened that God did not want to happen, a rape or an incest. And I'm not going to jump into that woman's shoes in that situation and make that call. And ultimately, grace abounds. God is big, and he can work through that process. Again, I hope life is chosen, but I cannot in that situation where two wrongs don't make a right. I don't know, however you'd say that.
Josh, we have just a few more minutes before you're out, man, and that's too bad because we're having a great conversation here. But I want to make sure that the listeners are cued into why you're running or the principles that you're running on. So you note that your priorities are focused on transparency, accountability, fiscal responsibility, collaboration, and respect. So what more would you want to say about why you're running for office?
Yeah, by the way, my hard stop at 8:40 is I'm a little bit warm culture as well, where you spend more time where you are and that deadline down the road. Anyway, that's another story for missionary work. But no, you're absolutely right. Those are the key things. And guys, we've been talking about abortion and gay marriage in the conversation here. The reality is those are way above pay grade for a county commissioner. And that's a lot of what the challenges and the struggles that we've been having as a community have gotten into, is because the Ottawa Impact Republicans have been swinging way above pay grade on a lot of issues. The ultimate job of a county commissioner is to hire a competent and qualified county administrator to facilitate the service organization that is the Ottawa County government. That means our health department. That means community mental health. That means our sheriff's department. That means our court system, our park system. My gosh, we've got one of the best park systems in the country, I would argue, for what we have here in West Michigan. So that's our job. Our job is not to make proclamations about childhood innocence. That's a social war issue, and I get it that people are passionate about it. But as a county commissioner, you got nothing. You can't do a thing about that. Well, I should say a thing. You can't do very little about that. So yeah, those are my priorities. We'll talk about also fiscal responsibility and transparency. We have spent, my gosh, I'm a business owner, from an efficiency standpoint, because of the battles that the county commission has chosen to fight, and they've put the staff through fighting those battles as well. The amount of efficiency that we've lost at the county level, I would reckon it's in the millions of dollars of lost hours and wages that have spent doing things that don't even have anything to do with your core job on staff as county employees. We could talk about the lawsuits and the settlements. I mean, between legal fees and settlements and payouts. I mean, they fired John Shea on day one. John Shea's severance package, I don't know what it was, but he got I believe it was a full year's salary, full benefits, when they fired him on day one. Well, right away, we started off at probably a $200,000 deficit or more, and they just kept stacking and adding on after that. They're now on their third county administrator, and I think took them 14 months to be on their third county administrator. That's not the county administrator's fault, although we had a doozy there. That's the leadership's fault. That reflects on leadership, not on staff. And we need to get back to that. Transparency, my gosh, if you were to count up the hours that is spent behind closed doors where decisions have been made. Sure, Opens Meeting Act allowed. I would bet that those hours in the last 18 months with Ottawa Impact you couldn't even get there with the last 20 years of Ottawa County Commission meetings that were behind closed door sessions, the amount that Ottawa Impact has done in 18 months. That's not a good way to do government. That's a sign the government is not functioning, it's not healthy, and it's not heading.
No, it sounds like there's been a lot of money spent, and I thought the right usually says the Democrats waste a lot of money.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think I've heard that, Shawn. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we've got to get back to running a county government like it is the service organization that it is. It is there to serve. And just for the record, the Ottawa County Health Department employees have gotten absolutely trashed by Ottawa Impact Republicans right now. And the argument has been that there is a political agenda within the health department at Ottawa County. I got to quote this. I'm going to see if I can say it right. But I want to go work for a community health department serving the least of these for less money than I could earn in the private market because I have a political agenda. Said not one health department employee ever. You don't go into the health department because you have a political agenda that you're trying to push. You're there because you're serving. You're there because you have a heart for the community. And we need to treat that staff with dignity and respect that they deserve, and gratitude. My gosh, gratitude. So hang in there, Ottawa County staff.
Help is coming.
Help is coming.
Josh, do you have like time for one more question? Maybe 2 minutes. All right, go for it.
Let's just do it.
This one. So, what you're talking about in your campaign is what I've heard from a lot of candidates, and I think there are much needed things from what the community wants. But what I wonder is, the things that you're talking about are not what Ottawa Impact voters want, right? I don't think that they care about these things to a large degree, because I think they're in this narrative of, quote unquote, taking America back. They want to take back the county, and they want to challenge the status quo. So that's my opinion, is that they don't care about the money, the lawsuits, and all these other things, because their objective is purely ideological, and they will get to that whatever it costs them. So what would you say to an Ottawa Impact voter who says, I want to change things significantly? What can you do for me?
The Ottawa Impact voter who agrees with a lot of the tenets of what Ottawa Impact is advocating for. And some of this is scary stuff. You guys have probably looked into it, but there's a doctrine of lesser magistrates. There's this 7 pillars, mountains scenario within the Christian church. There's even a document floating around right now. I pull it up. I'll send it to you guys, about Ottawa County creating its own constitution, and it's tied to the Campbell power plant. Yep. And within the language of creating our own constitution is creating our own militia. For those people who believe that that is the right path, I don't have anything for you. I'm going to be very frank. I would love your vote and your support, but I'm not your guy. There's somebody else you need to vote for. And if that's the direction our county is headed in, and they take the majority in August, it's very scary times for all of us, because in part of it, now, a little defense of those people who are rallying there, they don't fully understand the game plan for Ottawa Impact and this 7 mountains and the doctrine of lesser magistrates. They're not into that. They're just, and Joe Moss has done a fabulous job playing to faith, originally faith, family, and freedom. My gosh, Warman, those are great things. Absolutely, I'm rallying to it. But the application of it has been frightening. So Nick, for those people who are that far right, I don't have an answer for you. If you're somewhere in the middle and you're thinking, gal, what I voted, you got voter regret, I voted for those guys. Hey, you know what? We're here. There is a whole slate of Republican candidates who are common sense, traditional Republicans who share a lot of the same values with you. You'll see us in church on Sunday if that's where you want to meet us. And we're here to serve. We believe that the county can be a quiet, can be a reliable, dependable service organization to take care of the community. Those are the people that I'm looking for. And I hope they're looking for a candidate like me and the whole slate of other Republican candidates who are not affiliated with Ottawa Impact.
Listener, that's Josh Brugger. Josh is running as a Republican for the District 10 seat on the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. Josh, are you facing a primary from an Ottawa Impact candidate?
Yes, I am. A very nice gentleman. His name is Jason Court. He's a graduate of Spring Lake, and had coffee with him. Good guy, really like him, but he has, as they say, he's drunk the juice. The Ottawa Impact Kool-Aid.
Loving that Kool-Aid.
So my heart goes out to him, but it's not.
Well, Josh, we thank you for your time this morning, and best to you as you proceed with your campaign.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you
for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Shawn, we have like 10 more minutes. Normally, we're kind of just running here to get to the next record. So, do you have any thoughts and comments before we land this plane?
Well, I was curious on your thoughts and comments a little bit on, because we actually, I found that conversation to be quite stimulating a little bit, because we
stimulating.
Yeah. We jumped into some, pretty big topics there between, religion, abortion, gay rights, not too much gay rights, just, a little bit there. But yeah, I really think he articulated the abortion thing very, very well, as far as his thoughts on it and everything. Opposed to demonizing one side about something.
Yeah, and that is what I think needs to be injected into the conversation more, is that recognizing that there is a whole lot of nuance, whether somebody is pro-life or pro-choice. Now, in terms of this, I'll take up the position that Josh is talking about. If a voter or a candidate, elected official, is going to be pro-choice, so be it. But what do we do then? How do you then support that woman and her family and that child, as you say, okay, outside of these conditions that we say are incumbent upon you, how do we support you? And that's just not in the national conversation. It's no, we are going to overturn the decisions made decades ago, and then we're going to let the states get into this, and then we're going to let politicians make these decisions without thinking through how does this work down at a local level. And Josh talks about supporting families, mental health, and a couple other things. So that is really key and important to a voter, because a voter, I know people, and I know you do as well, that they're just we're pro-life. You cannot abort babies. You cannot have this type of infanticide and murder going on. And I'll say, okay, what's your plan? How are you going to help move this needle outside of just voting yes or no? So, there just has to be a more robust conversation.
Agreed.
Agreed. And he was mentioning at the end there, the doctrine of the lesser magistrates, and really when he's talking about the 7 pillars, the 7 mountain mandates. That's all, we've, if you want to read or listen more about the doctrine of the lesser magistrates, we did 2 podcast episodes on that subject, and it's really right in the wheelhouse of Christian nationalism, which says that, hey, it's my way or the highway. You're either on or you're off, and we don't care if you're with us or not.
Nice. What the hell is up with the him talking about on those 7 pillars? Potentially getting a militia. in Holland? Are they planning on breaking off and making their own country or something like the Vatican or Texas?
Well, there's so this has to do with a local power plant, and you're gonna have to forgive me, listener, if I mess this up a little bit. But there's a local group that says we want to do things differently, or we should operate differently outside of what the charter of the county states. So like the charter is kind of the rules for things. We think that we'd like to operate outside of those. So, it does lead to some discussion about rewriting a charter, what that would look like. And if that doesn't happen, all right, do we attempt to secede from the county? There was, I think it was 2 years ago, up in Muskegon County, where one of their elected officials on the city council, they put that forth. We should secede. Either from the county or for the state of Michigan, and we are going to make ourselves different. We're going to be our own separate unit and have our own rules, and then we can have a militia
to protect our rules.
So that's what's that?
Have a militia to protect our rules.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's this whole faction of attempting to remake the rules and work out what I think is perhaps outside of the constitutional norms or understandings, so they can and just do things in a different way. Because again, they have to they work under this idea of taking America back. I mean, that's kind of the catchline and phrase for Christian nationalism. And if if you're an adherent to that ideology, you will do whatever means necessary because your Bible says so.
Gotcha. Yeah. Nah.
What? Any other thoughts from you on the episode? I know you wanted to chime in about Trump being a new felon.
Oh, I was just, because this is being recorded June 1st, and as of 2 days ago, on the 30th of May, Trump was convicted of 34 felony accounts of what was it, bribing or false business practices.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
With that, the language, I think the false business practices, that's definitely in the wheelhouse.
Because he's the first ever to do that. It's
go on.
It's if he's guilty, he's guilty, completely fine. But I think it sets up a scary narrative on politics where if you don't like your opponent, you could, I think this could have been or has been this way for years of, just dig up as much dirt as you can on somebody and get it done, I guess. But I feel like it's going to open up the gateway to a lot of different politicians and everything, getting lawsuits and everything for similar, because the whole thing's around the Stormy Daniel payoff, hush money deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like in politics and in, the top 1%, rich folks of America, there has to be so much hush money type of things floating around everywhere through that entire vein of society type of thing.
Yeah. So, my question in this is, so there's, the narrative on the political sides that yes, exclamation mark, he has been convicted. Justice has been served, law and order. And then on the opposite side of this is like it's an injustice. The system is out to get him. But my question at the end of the day is, okay, why is this important? So, I mean, the facts were there that he paid quote unquote hush money prior to, I think, just before his election cycle. So why did he pay this hush money? To keep the story out of the news.
Yep.
Yeah, 8 years ago. I mean, things like these lawsuits and things take time to happen. But why is it important? In my opinion, and what the opinion has been, is that, well, this information interferes with an election process about larger accessible information, and perhaps, well, not perhaps, but a host of other things that I'm just not up to speed on right now.
Yeah.
But if a man or any person in this country has committed a crime, should they or should they not be charged for those crimes? I mean, that at the end of the day,
they should be
right, to the fullest extent of the law allowable.
Well, I don't know what's the fullest extent of the law in this situation. He could face up to 20 years in prison, which I don't think he will at all. I think Manhattan will take a big chunk out of his wallet, and at the end of the day, nothing's really going to change other than Trump gets a big fine, and they can, in every debate from here on out, announce him as federal felon, former President Donald Trump comes to the stage.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, there's a lot of things that'll change, but I would also counter this argument well with, okay, if a potential president of the United States, if there was information about him that was had to deal with a criminal record or criminal dealings, should that not be addressed?
Well, it should be. It should be.
Right. But so it'll, like, this conversation will switch. If it was Joe Biden, like, if there is credible information that was brought to a jury and the prosecutor says, okay, President Joe Biden paid hush money to a porn star that would have affected voters and the information that voters had in, whatever, should Joe Biden be prosecuted for this?
Yeah.
I say yeah too. Like across the board.
Across the board, they all should. I'm not defending Trump by any means. I'm just saying that this could make a pretty scary outcome, further down the line in politics. I do believe if you dig deep enough on any politicians, you're going to find some real dirt. And if somebody wants to go far enough, the question I'm kind of wondering, if everyone's looking at conspiracies and going, well, everybody's against Trump, is, and what we're talking about now, we could actually pull this out later and do this as a separate thing outside this episode if we wanted to cut it off. What's the chances you think they might want to put him away for a year? Slap him with a big fine, go, you're going to go to prison for a year. Because then that would take him completely out of the election for this year.
Oh gosh, yeah, I have.
What happens in that scenario then?
Well, what I do know is that just based upon the little reading that I've done on this, is that being a convicted felon does not prohibit somebody for running for office.
Yeah, so he can still do that, but if they decide that you're going to serve some jail time.
Yeah, I mean,
knowing him, he'd probably still try to run behind bars. But I'm not a huge Biden fan. I would like to see him replaced this coming election. I don't really want Trump, but I've said that for the last 2 years, or pretty much since he lost in 2020. That on the Republican Party, I think you needed to strap your saddle on a different pony, because it just looked like there was so much baggage coming along with Trump that I don't see. But then again, since he's been convicted, his campaign has has gained $50 million in finances since he got convicted.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's been a donation of $50 million in the last 48 hours to his campaign. So what did I say in the last couple? There's no such thing as bad publicity?
Yeah, bad publicity. For
Bad
sure. Like
publicity.
things like these work to a political basis narrative, and especially, Trump, who's genius at this, is turning that narrative around and making it look as if he's the victim, so you can then fundraise off of that. So the larger debate around this is, okay, that works for his base of voters, but does this conviction sway enough independent voters or those from the Republican Party who do not lean all the way MAGA? Like, is this enough to sway those voters? And that's to be determined.
I think it's the hard part. Is the question is, does it not necessarily does it sway voters towards him or against him, but how? And it was like this the last election, actually last two elections. I feel like, is it enough to sway voters to, if they didn't like Biden to begin with, is it enough for them to sway off of Trump to Biden?
Yes.
Opposed to just, because it may come down to a situation where it's like, well, no, I don't like Trump, but I still don't like Biden, so type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And here's what I would say. And
I still stick with in 2016 when Trump won. I think he won because of who he was running against. He was running against Hillary Clinton. And I think that was the thing that helped him win in 2016.
Well, here's what I would pose to. I think this is how I see it between Trump and President Biden. Is, okay, we have a convicted felon in President Trump. We have somebody who has sowed misinformation about the elections process, and till this day continues to sow that. He's stated as much that he wants to get rid of the Constitution. He has incited violence at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. I mean, this is, we've had people from his own administration admit to that. There are people from his administration who have put forth clearly all of this, but yet, and they'll denounce it when it happens, but now they are back in his camp supporting. But I just say, how can we put a man in office who has categorically done these things, and there's information to back that up? And what? Okay, you don't like Joe Biden because you think he has, the economy, the inflation is rising, or you don't like it because you don't like how he has managed the border. Okay, those are policy differences. This is not putting a man, convicted felon, in office. Yeah, because this conversation, I don't understand how people can not see the differences between the two. And we need to get out of here. This is like an hour 20. All right, listener. We've got, like I mentioned at the top, we've got our live podcast event Sunday, June 16 from 5:30 to 8:30. And the way that this is going to work out is for the first hour, Doug Padgett of Vote Common Good is going to join us, and we are going to talk about our border experience along the U.S.-Mexico border. So I had the privilege of going down there a few weeks ago, and we are going to share that experience and discuss that. And then, so that'll go for an hour. Then we'll have Sarah Leach for an hour, about from 6:30 to 7:30. And Mitchell Boatman, a former colleague of hers, but also a journalist with the Holland Sentinel, he'll be there as well. And then we'll wrap up the evening with some Common Good candidates. candidates. We'll have Chris Crothers, Democratic candidate running in Zeeland, and then Phil Kyers, Republican from Grand Haven Township. We'll have them on to talk about what it means to be a common good candidate and why they're running. Hopefully, Shawn, that'll be a little kind of a matchup or pairing where we have a Democrat and a Republican on the same stage at the same table. And I always think that's an interesting visual and kind of.
We can start them right off like Chris and Mark. Just vaxxed or not vaxxed?
yeah. If we get if we get the comments from the audience, so mark your calendar there. They'll please RSVP for free at our Facebook event page.
Yep, on Father's Day.
You can find that. Yeah, on Father's Day. Who cares about Father's Day? Do you?
I did, but now I got to work.
It's a fake holiday. I care about Father's Day, to be clear. It's my favorite holiday because I like things to be all about me. Listener, be sure to stay informed in 2024. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at votecommongood-wm.org. And follow us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's all. Thank you, everybody, for joining this Common Good conversation. Till next time, be the common good in West Michigan.
Peace.